You guys are amazing. I wanted to say congratulations because I know we have a lot of award winners and a lot of presenters in the room. But most importantly, you're the survivors who have made it to the afternoon of the third day. We're so thrilled you're here. Well, as you know, we're going to be talking about intensifying e-learning. And I'm here with a distinguished panel. So this group here with me are the people who have been at the forefront of change and innovation in education before and throughout the pandemic. They all transitioned successfully to online and hybrid models of education. And today they're here to share their learnings, their favorite tech tools, and a few secrets that you can take away with you. So everybody's going to take 1 or 2 minutes and introduce themselves. I should have a flipper here. All right, Ann Lan.
Hi, thank you, Carrie. So I would just do a story, telling my story, just short story. It's a Friday, right? It's the same Friday, around this time, 5 years ago, I was kneeling at my father's deathbed, witnessing his last breath. It was so much painful, and it's just like somebody cut through my heart. And 6 weeks before that, my mother passed away. And 6 weeks before that, my husband was hospitalized and nearly lost his life. So all of these happened when I was transitioning from a 25 years to IT career into a nonprofit sector to really align my life with the lifelong passion of youth empowerment and youth leadership development. And at that moment, I have two choices: either, go deep into depression, or anchor on my grace so that I can take care of the funeral and helping my siblings. And I choose the latter one. So fast forward with the pandemic, I was able to use the virtual program, delivering to thousands of people in Vietnam to cope with the pandemic. It's all through Zoom. Yes, we talk about Zoom a lot. And it was mind-boggling to see how through the relational education model that I was able to do that. And fast forward, I wrote the book called Living in Grace, Living Your Best Life Now. And fast forward, now I'm here connecting with all of you who are just like blown me away with your heart, with your intentions. I'm very privileged and honored to be part of this panel. And I'm here. My name is An Lan Nguyen. I'm here to serve, to love, to give, and to share. And that is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Caroline.
Yeah. My name is Caroline. I am with iFunza. I was here in the morning telling about our product. We have a platform that brings together parents, teachers, students, and administrators to collaborate to improve education outcomes. Passionate about what we do. There are numerous studies that have shown that one of the biggest indicators of education outcomes is parent engagement. And we have taken on the challenge of actually bringing the parent into the classroom. And we know that's not physically possible, so we are leveraging technology to make that happen. We were here last year and we got a lot of inquiries about special education and how we were bringing those parents into the classroom given the challenges that are there around that around special education. So we took it upon ourselves and we have embarked on that journey to help the special education track to engage with their parents and collaborate with the educators to improve the outcomes for that cohort as well.
Awesome, thank you. And if you didn't catch the name of her company, it's the most fun name here. It's iFunza. You're welcome to just say it for fun, iFunza. There we go. Kim.
Hi, my name is Kim Lenoy Sandoval, and I work with Cooperative Educational Services. So what Cooperative Educational Services what we do is we are a purchasing power amongst all New Mexican entities. And what we do with our services, we give back to our schools and school districts by doing programs such as the program I oversee, LEAP, which is teacher development, which we have over 300 teachers that come through our program each year to become certified in the teaching field. We have principal leadership development. We also have school board training, and we also have superintendent's academies that we go ahead and put in place to serve over 330,000 students in New Mexico. My passion and my research is in teacher diversity. And I'm really passionate about how do we change teacher preparation and move away from archaic models and really support teachers in ensuring that they give students great education, but also value and empower students from where they are, where they come from, their experiences, and really use an asset-based approach to learning. So that's my passion, and that's why I'm happy here to discuss about this panel, about how do we, focus on teacher retention through connection even after the pandemic, and take everything we learned on how to continue to connect with human beings to ensure they're successful in classrooms.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. Do I have sound? Is that okay? No? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Did you want to speak to this slide at all? Are we good?
Yeah, I can speak briefly to this slide. So this slide is for the LEAP program. And what we do in LEAP is we have a teacher, they're a career changer. They come into the profession, they want to enter teaching, they go through our program. So they already have a bachelor's degree, they already are experienced in the professional workforce, and they sign up for LEAP, which is a one-year program. And what we did is we put together wraparound support. So we just, as soon as they come in, we provide all kinds of human connection and support to ensure their success. But more importantly, what you see are the retention numbers in those pie charts. So our first year, we had a 90% retention rate in our program, which is huge. If you know teacher retention, first year program completers is below 60% in this country. So we were really proud of that number, and we got national recognition for that number. And then the second year was the pandemic year, which it seems like all the years are pandemic years at this point, but was the 76%. So we immediately knew something was wrong. And as New Mexicans, what we value most is connection. When you're New Mexican, the first thing you ask someone who's also from New Mexico is, where are you from and who's your family? And you know that about each other the first thing you meet. So we were already looking at that and saying, something's wrong, we're missing connection. And then this year, we're at a 96% retention rate, which we're really proud of, but we had to use some tools and rethink technology to keep that connection and to keep relationships going. So that's that slide. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger.
So I represent Universal Accounting Center. We're actually a business that's been in business since 1979. I'm the third president of the company, and what essentially we've been able to do is work with accounting professionals to help them in their careers, either get the professional support that they need, skill advancement to find the employment they've been wanting, or help them actually start and build their accounting businesses. And so we spend actually quite a bit of our time now working with CPAs, enrolled agents, accounting professionals, bookkeepers, tax preparers, helping them start and build their accounting business. So we have a variety of programs that range from marketing and sales and pricing to offering quality business services as well as staff training. So it's a variety of elements that we're providing, obviously in the context of this, in an online platform. So.
Awesome. We're looking forward to hearing more. And of course, there's also me, Carrie Purcell. If I haven't met you, I'm CEO and co-founder of Tech Adaptica. We're the metaverse for education. We've been working in immersive technology since before, but also very much during the pandemic. And I'll tell you, I am so thrilled to be here with everybody in person. This is a rare occasion over the last 2 years. But we have been playing in the metaverse, and it never closes. We don't get pandemics. It's been a lot of fun. Our technology is better to see than hear, so I'm going to try to play you a very brief clip. That's just a taste of what we do. So everybody on this panel has some technology tool or some approach that they've used successfully to lead online education. And I think that it's important, as much as we're going to talk about that, to talk about the why, not just the how. So we know over the last couple of years, there are circumstantial reasons that lead the why that we can't ignore. But a lot of people on this panel are going to take you through very unique motivations, problems and challenges that they've been trying to solve and have done so successfully. I want to start with Roger and ask you to talk about the transition from in-person, from brick and mortar to online, which I know he actually had a head start on and did pre-pandemic. So Roger, tell us about that.
Yeah, so the question I want to start with is actually for you. How many of you, by a raise of hands, actually run a for-profit organization where you're providing training for a cost? So I've got one. So the rest of you, I'm assuming, are more in academic and perhaps in a scholastic type environment. Okay, good. Let me kind of address this from his point of view, but also inform each of you. From a business concept, what you're looking at is the consumer is the student. They're paying for the curriculum. We're dealing with post-secondary training, so we have to provide training that's compelling, that they're willing to pay for, and then produce that in a way that they're able to then be at least confident enough upon completion to go out and do whatever task or skill that they were trained in. In our case, it's accounting services. So when we were first starting back in 1979, it was, as you would expect, a very traditional setting. It would be a classroom environment, teachers teaching with students in a classroom setting. Well, early on in 2000, what we started to recognize is that with technology such as the VHS tape and then later DVDs, we did have an ability to actually film our curriculum and provide students who were missing classes a way to stay in touch and actually, let's say, not fall behind. And one of the things that we realized is that in producing this content that would allow the student to miss a class and not fall behind, maybe be able to check it out of a library and stay in touch in the sense that they could review sessions, it actually found its place in the sense that the students realized, I prefer this. This is something that I enjoy. I would rather do the study at my time, at my leisure, as opposed to attend a specific classroom on a particular day at a particular time. And really that was something of interest. The second thing that we also realized is that the training, when we actually provided it in a classroom setting, was nearly twice as long as the instruction needed to be to teach the concept. At the beginning of class, you have the pleasantries of meeting the students, kind of getting the day going. You also have the interaction of the students throughout the day that'll extend the class instruction, various questions. Everybody else gets it, but one student wants to ask a number of questions, when in reality they're slowing down the teaching process. And then at the end, you've got a lot of time maybe where the concept's been taught, but everyone's sticking around because they either don't leave or they have interactions with their colleagues and peers. Well, all that's fine and dandy, but it's basically a 1 hour class or an hour and a half class is extended over a 3 hour period of time. So what we found is we could actually teach that curriculum in half the time in an online or a recorded format. Well, you take now that classroom environment and you offer to a student the ability to check it out of a library, and they're going to say, well, I can do it in an hour and a half, what I could have done in 3 hours. By all means, I'll just check it out and do it on my own leisure. Well, we, long story short, found that 95% of the students were open to either independent study, or would entertain it, versus the 5% that insisted on classroom instruction with an instructor at a specific time for a period of time. Well, all that led us to realize that our business model could change, and it, over the course of a number of years, enabled us to close 22 campuses and move to an entirely online platform. And to answer your question, that transition really consisted of two key elements. One, you have to competently record and document the instruction. The delivery of that content needs to be compelling, informative, instructive. But the second part of that, it needs to be then put on a learning management system platform that is useful for the student to actually now go through the curriculum. So the platform isn't YouTube, let's say. It has to be an LMS, a learning management system, that you can then leverage to really manage that student experience. And we've gone through now 2 platforms to achieve that. But really, that's what the individual is expecting, whether they're paying for it directly as a consumer, or perhaps they're in an academic setting. Either way, they're looking for that experience, and whatever you're doing to provide that experience is key.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just that discovery of how efficiently you can present the content, it can be consumed, is really important, I think. Did other people find that during the pandemic? Just a show of hands. You were able to do it more efficiently without using technology or without having people in class? Okay. We will come back to talking about LMSs as well, and I'll ask Caroline to talk about it a little bit. Just before we do, I want to ask Kim, so what did the transition, a bit of a similar question, what did the transition look like at CES? And in particular, you managed the LEAP program. So from that perspective, what did it look like? What strategies did you put in place? How did you make sure that there was connection?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And as many of you probably found, that balance is really hard. So we can record it. I can record myself, they can watch it, they can get their work done. And as many people found in the pandemic, we liked that balance, right? Instead of having to drive to a place, we got to do laundry and do work and manage our kids. And I feel like our teachers were feeling that too with their learning. But what we also wanted to keep is that connection piece. How do we stay connected? And with our wraparound services, they're connected with their LEAP coach. So what we did is we did all online learning for the whole group. For all 200 teachers was online Zoom. And once a month we did face-to-face, but we had a hybrid model where we saw them face-to-face, we used breakout rooms, but we had engagement rubrics. So the 4 pillars of LEAP are leadership, engagement, achievement, and perseverance. So we also expect them to be engaged in their learning like we want their students. And that was really the selling point of, okay, I'm up here with a bunch of blank screens. You guys are teachers, you don't like it. I want to feel your connection. So we had to put rubrics in place for engagement and really put out the expectations of what does engagement look like in an online setting. And then the other part to that was we still tried to find some in-person connection, so we would still travel across the state to see them in their buildings. So we had the online and in-person connection, and that seemed to work best for us.
Thank you. That's awesome. This theme of connection, of engagement, of peer-to-peer comes up a lot when we talk about online learning and technology because it's not simple to do. So I think we're going to circle around that a little bit. And I know that Ann-Len, you talk a lot about relational education. So tell us what that means, and importantly, is it possible in e-learning?
Thank you. Actually, relational education, anybody here learn about that term or using that principle? Yes, thank you. Because actually there is the Tao Institute. You can check out Tao Institute. They had tons of really awesome, and I actually did that without knowing the concept. So I did that successfully without knowing the concept, and then I met with the principal of a private school that said, "Ann-Len, you're doing relational education." And oh, really? And then I started learning. I joined the conference, and I learned so much about that. But I want to share with you a story about, so pandemic happened. We used to, like at my institution is already offer online learning. but I used to do speaking and do training, on live, right? So the question is, how can you keep the engagement? And so a very successful story that I want to share is that we started with a youth leadership summit, and it was supposed to be for 60 teenagers from Vietnam, which is, we are from Houston, Texas, and we delivered the project in Vietnam. And these 16 kids coming to the program, and we spent 7 days, like 2 days of lecture, 5 days of challenge, and then 1 day they put together the skit. The key thing is engagement. And we have facilitators just like the teachers. We train the facilitators, and every single minutes in the program has to be planned. So I agree with Roger that it would be much more structured, but you have to come with the outcome in mind. What is my outcome that I want to deliver? What is the learning outcome? What is the experience outcome? What kind of experience you want to give for the participants? And then what is the performance outcome? How can you sustain their behaviors, their changes in the upcoming months? And all of that, we achieve all of these. So these 60 kids coming from 30 different cities. And remember, like last year, around August, it was a critical time for COVID in Vietnam. So all of these kids stuck at home. And they create this. I just blew away by their creativity, because you actually, when you activate this power within themselves, they create wonderful things. And now it is April in 2022. There are 6 kids we call Grace Ambassadors still coming back, and now they are running 5 different projects across Vietnam to promote like anti-bullying, how helping using grace to really cope with the peer pressures, those teen issues, or how to use grace to really cope with the prejudice on gender. So all of these, you're talking about 16-year-old kids. And so I was just blown away by the power of these youth if you actually can learn how to turn on. And all of this done through online. And we use Zoom, which is very simple, but there's a lot of tools like Mentimeter, or if you are in STEM, like I have a friend who delivered a program for 5,000 kids using the Scratch tool from MIT. It's a free tool, and it's very powerful. So all of these tools out there enable you to help the kids, but the key thing is relationship. I think that's the key. Like, you've got to have the teachers or facilitators with group divided into groups and using competition and like some kind of challenge and with that, and measure with assessment at the end. I think all of that are the key components.
And the GRACE model, what does it stand for?
The GRACE model is just basically, it's 5 values. It's like character education. It stands for gratitude, respect, accountability, courage, and engagement. And these are very common sense values, right? But when I developed the program, I based like my expertise in emotional intelligence. So using strategy of emotional intelligence and self-leadership. And I have a book called Living in Grace. You can check it out on Amazon. And I convert that. Actually, I have a course that's starting next week. So if you want to check it out, it's the livingyourbestlifewithgrace.com/course. And I would love to welcome any of you coming in, because my dream is how can I bring this GRACE model to across United States, Canada, and around the world to help students to really empowering themselves to be successful.
Wonderful, thank you. I think we'll come back to that a little bit more. I also want us to think about and dig into how we measure that success that we're seeing. So concretely, how can we see it? And Caroline, I don't know if your question will lead you there. If it does, wonderful. But from the technology side, I want to hear a little bit about how, when you're thinking about building and assessing e-learning tools. But let's start from the building side. So how can we ensure that the tools are comprehensive and that they can actually reduce user fatigue, which I think many people have experienced over the last 2 years?
Yes. So how many of you have more than 10 apps on your phone? How many of you use 3 of them only on a given day? So you download a lot of apps and end up using maybe just 30% of them. And that's the same as a lot of these e-learning tools that we have. The key is we as technologists involving the end users and really understanding what their requirement is and trying to kind of consolidate all those needs into a comprehensive tool so that we don't have a tool that offers a whiteboard, then another one that offers maybe text-to-speech dictation, right? So then that means I'd have to have those 2 tools, and I'm the same person in the same class to accomplish something that I could have done in one session in one tool. So listening to the users, knowing what their problem is, and then innovating around it. Technologists have bright minds. They know the technology. So getting that problem and actually digesting it and trying to figure out what's the best user journey that we can give to our users so that they're constantly using the product and in a meaningful way so that they don't have to have 15 clicks. Well, I can just have them click 2 times, right? That user experience helps help people utilize tools a little bit more efficiently. And of course, we want to ensure that we have simple things like single sign-ons, right? So if we have multiple technologies that don't necessarily integrate, ensure that we have technology that can talk to each other, right? I'd give a good example of Carrie's Adaptica. We were just talking about it earlier, and my question was, does it integrate? Can we use that technology on our platform and not have to worry about sending the user to other different places to get to your site? So we keep getting creative about the user journey, and hopefully we'll get there.
That was great. So yeah, 100% that, if from a digital design perspective, you really can take, I think a lot about the student journey. I know everybody up here does as well. But from a pure tech standpoint, we're just talking about the user journey. We're talking about user journeys. So who are the different players? What is their emotional journey? What's their expectation for the easiest path? So whether it's the fewest clicks, the most intuitive method so that we're not worried about all kinds of training and onboarding and delaying in those ways. And then housing things in a single place where everything is there. At Tech Adaptica, we've created 3D virtual environments that are supposed to give you the level of engagement that you would be able to have if you could meet in person, but it doesn't mean that your LMS should live somewhere else, and it doesn't mean that your assignments and your course content and your schedule should be somewhere else. It has to be within that same environment. And at the same time, if you can find an immersive way to connect your schedule and your course content, your peers, your teachers, your friends in a single place, there's a huge amount of power there. And if you haven't experienced it, you'll get a chance to, and it's a lot of fun. So thank you, that's really awesome. And I think everybody here in there, whether it's tech design or not, is thinking about designing that student journey, right? That user experience, that emotional journey, and trying to make it the most, whatever the goal is, the easiest, the most successful. In many cases, we're trying to make it the least stressful, but in some cases, we are trying to incentivize certain behaviors, and so you can do that as well. So, yeah?
I just want to add something here that we know also like the user is so important when designing the product, because we have products that are designed for learners of higher level, and we have products that are designed for maybe K through 12. And like during the pandemic, we saw what happened. I don't know how many of you have little kids, but I would open Microsoft Teams for my child, and as soon as I walk out, can I get a snack? Or how do I change my screen? Or, there was something they're not used to just staring at a screen. But if you put them on Roblox, they will stay there for hours, right? They will stay on TikTok, right? So do we have tools that are actually captivating to these age groups, right? As opposed to one tool fits all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually going to ask you a question from the other side and then open it up a little bit more. So when we're evaluating tools, I want to ask you what to look for. And I know that you actually have a specific lens where you really do accommodate and appeal to special needs as well. So tell us how to think about evaluating these tools.
Speaking of special education, like I said, in person, there's already challenges in this particular cohort. So bringing it online, goes exponential. So picking tools for individuals with special needs has to be evaluated with a special lens. You have to consider their learning. How do they learn, right? What are their types of disabilities? Are there technologies out there that support their learning technology, their disabilities? So, for example, if we have individuals who have a hard time writing, some of them can't write, right? But they are cognitively developed enough to understand and consume content and can communicate it. Are there tools out there that can enable them to have speech to text? Are there tools out there that can allow the instructors to actually deliver content that's consumable to these individuals with disability and allow the teachers to see how they're interacting with the content that they're delivering, as well as be able to give them feedback and most importantly, teach the parents how to be the teachers away from school. Very important that we give tools that bring the parent into the classroom, because when the students are not in class, the parent is the teacher. And we want the learning journey to continue outside of the school walls.
Yes, thank you. I want to open this up. I'm sure everybody in the room probably has some answers to this question. But to the panel broadly, whoever wants to start, what challenges are there? What challenges did you experience, or do we anticipate others will experience going online? I think Kim and then Roger.
Well, I was going to say, New Mexico, like other states, have rural areas that had a hard time with bandwidth and actually getting on Zoom. So I know a lot of our teachers who teach on the reservation or other rural areas around our state, when we asked them to get on Zoom, turn their cameras on, they had to keep their cameras off. Breakout rooms, they would drop out, then opening Zoom, opening Jamboard, opening Mentimeter. So I really liked the conversation about having the one platform, one area to experience those things. And also Roger's with, there is that need to have the ability to record and have easy access when you can, go to your school building, and when you leave the reservation, go to your school buildings to get access to internet. So I think for us, that was one of the huge challenges, is how do we create connection? How do we promote engagement, structure it like you said, but also provide grace to those who didn't have the connectivity? And how are we going to address that and still keep that human connection? So that was our challenge.
So I'm going to start this one with another question to the group. By a raise of hands, how many of you are involved in curriculum development? That actually, okay, good. One of the things that I think is very key to this is when creating the curriculum, it's important that you first of all create the curriculum in a way that appeals to you. You actually can become a lot more passionate about what it is you're teaching when you're delivering it in a method that you're excited about. So if your preference is video, then produce it in a video. If that's your preferred way of learning, then create that video structure. If it's PowerPoint, do it PowerPoint. If it's through writing content, write the content. But here's the advice. The advice is that that methodology that you're using to instruct is probably going to appeal to maybe 20-25% of your audience. you still have to recognize that when creating curriculum, there is a group of the student body that's going to be more auditory, and then there's going to be a group of them that are more visual, and then there's going to be another group of them that are going to be kinesthetic or tactile. So you have to incorporate over time those different elements into your curriculum, and you have to build into it that video instruction. You have to build into it that reading that they can then look at and highlight and use as a reference point. You have to build in the exercises for them to actually do something and physically feel perhaps some of the exercises. And then you also have to bring into it the repetition. It's through the repetition that they're going to then be able to learn and remember. And then it's the testing to evaluate, not for the sake of necessarily the grading, but to simply assess for them, the student themselves, am I really understanding what I'm learning? And then secondly, for the instructor, am I teaching in a way that they're actually comprehending what's being instructed? So build the curriculum around whatever preferred method you like to learn in, because that's where you're going to be most passionate. But then you consciously have to go back and now say, okay, I created it in a visual capacity. What am I going to do now for the person who prefers to now read this? How am I going to provide them the content? How am I going to provide them the exercises or activities? And you have to go back and now actually build in those other elements that are perhaps not your preferred learning methodology, but it is what's within the student body, something needed. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would add to this, and it really goes to your point about relationships, we found very early on that when the student enrolls, they enroll with the best of intentions. They want to do the program, they want to learn the material, even though they don't know necessarily what they're going to learn. They're eager to learn. But life happens. We've all experienced it. Life occurs and we get distracted, we get discouraged, we have circumstances such as a pandemic that get in the way. And it's not to say that we're no longer interested in learning, it's just to say that life has its distractions. Well, as those come in, what we have found is that with all of our programs, we've moved towards offering with all of our students an orientation counselor. It's someone that everyone's individually assigned. It's a person that they have contact information for that they can reach out to when they have just the simplest of questions. How do I log into Zoom? Where do I go take my test? I forgot the website. They need to have not a phone number, they need a person that they're able to reach out to, and to have an individual's name and direct number, a voicemail they can leave, an email they can send, a text they can send to someone specific is hugely important. And having that continuity through the program, I think, is very helpful because they realize they have someone to lean on. The second is that I think they need then a tutor. Not the instructor. I'm presuming in my case that the instruction's being done in a recorded fashion, so it's being delivered in that context, but they need a tutor. I didn't understand what I'm looking at, reading. I don't understand the assignment. I need someone that knows the content that I can ask, and they can, in another way, in a real way, explain it back to me. So a tutor is a very important person. We refer to them as an academic coach. So in addition to being assigned a specific orientation counselor, they're assigned an academic coach that they can reach out to for that additional clarification. And then lastly, in my case, it's the last element that we've incorporated, and it's, I think, a common theme through the conference, is there is this life coach that we offer that I think is very much a very key component of the training. And it's like all of us are hearing, people are dealing with various traumas, various stresses, anxieties in their lives, and they have nothing to do with the instruction, but they have everything to do with their mental stability and their confidence. And we need to be able to provide some level of support there, and to be able to say with the enrollment in the school, we're here to teach you, but at the same time, we want to be a resource for you, that as life happens, we want this to be enough of a safe environment that you can reach to us to get that support outside of the curriculum. To be able to add that additional layer is very helpful at that relationship level. So
I would like to add some points in what you said very well, all the points, and I think that exactly address the needs for curriculum design. The only thing I want to add is that empower your student. So in the class, let's say you have 20 or 30 students, identify the top 5 that most engaging, and convert them into the tutor or whatever, the lead, right? So you need to, if you need to train them, and then you create teams teams, within team of about 3 to 5 students, and get them engaged and give them assignment that the repeatable habit building, like you said, exercise is good on the personal level, but you need that kind of teamwork. And you just have an assignment. You need to talk to your, let's say, accountability buddy, right? So each of them assign an accountability buddy, so they help each other, but also empower your students, your good students, and make them become the one, in my case, I call them grace ambassador. So they got special coaching from me. And then from them, they become the 5 leaders who lead these 5 teams, and they create a wonderful skit. And these are from rural area. I don't know how they get into the internet, but they create some skit about what they learned from the 7 days program, and it just blew me away. So teamwork, relationships, and leverage, empower your student. You would be surprised of their creativity.
Thank you. I want to give a couple of minutes for audience questions. And so let's open it up now before we run out of time. Any questions from the audience?
We were that good.
I still have more, so.
Or they are that tired.
Hi. What do you think about the e-learning in the future? What your visions of e-learning?
Do you want anyone specific, or who do you want to answer? Okay. Who wants it? All right, I'll do it. So, we've been looking at this for a long time. The future is hybrid, definitely hybrid. It will look different ways. So what does hybrid mean? That's something we're spending a lot of time exploring. I think people have caught up with the idea of the trend of virtual reality. It won't go away, it will grow, but it also won't be for everybody. What's interesting is that when we talk about metaverse, like that, this idea of the metaverse, it is a broad term. It does not need to exist solely in virtual reality. So pre-pandemic, we were doing a lot of augmented reality. Some really, really interesting ways of getting students and people out into the world to explore and experience and have these highly interactive, engaging experiences. Obviously, sometimes as simple as just holding up your phone, and sometimes using, a little bit more expensive devices, which more are coming and the prices will go down. So this idea of mixed reality is going to be very interesting, not just in the online education world, but as we go back in person and we think about the fact that maybe there are more efficient ways than showing up every single day, doing the commute, all of those extra things. There is this importance in connectivity, and we do need to do it, and we all really do want to do it in person. If we have those opportunities, we are going to go hybrid. But online and virtual and mixed reality just allows us to reach much more broadly. It never closes. It's 24 hours. We don't get sick. I mean, we might get sick, but the world doesn't get sick. So that's where we're going. I hope everybody gets a chance to try it out and explore it. Yeah. Is there one more question out there? I'll do a quick rapid fire to end if not. So I'd like each of the panelists just to, 10, 15 seconds, pains and gains from the pandemic and online learning.
Where are you starting?
I'm waiting to see if Caroline's ready.
Sure, yeah. Pains, it was a difficult transition. All of a sudden we realized we needed computers more than we did. People, even the youngest, learned how to use computers. And the gains is that now that knowledge is there. It's there to stick. But most importantly is that we've been challenged to become more innovative and really adapt to this new reality. And I hope that we don't see any slowdown in the innovation around what was being done during the pandemic, but rather see it grow and grow with the times. Technology is always evolving, so.
Just going down the list. The pandemic actually was very good to our business. I think it's very inspiring to realize that individuals have a desire, it's innate, to learn and to better themselves, and to be able to facilitate that curiosity, that interest that individuals have is helpful. Obviously, it's I think very important for us as educators to realize that our job is to be efficient and entertaining in delivering this, supportive, and as we basically look at our business models or our academics and try and determine how can we facilitate it better, it's evolving. I can look back 5 years ago and our business, our methodology, our instruction isn't the same as it is today, so much is changing.
Yeah. Kim, 10 seconds.
All right, 10 seconds. My pain was we were a completely in-person program, and then we had to become a complete online program. So the gain was we had to quickly shift and learn how to use e-learning tools to best engage teachers. And I think the best thing that came out of it was now we're able to support them in the balance of life because they have options and more flexibility in their learning. So the pain is it's more work for us to be engaging and to plan every second, like you mentioned, and be intentional, but there's a lot of gain there in the flexibility with it all.
For me, maybe because I'm a grace person, so I don't see the pain, I only see the gain. And to me, it's just exploding opportunity. I didn't know I have that kind of power. And imagine each of you in this room, if you can enlist and unleash your power within, and use it to your students. And imagine your student, each of them can be empowered. This work will become so much more different. So I look forward to that day that I use the metaverse from Carrie's organization to do a world organization conference that can inspire and impact it like millions of people. Oh my gosh, that dream is a dream, but it is achieving. I think we are achieving it in a couple of next year. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you all for your time, for sharing your insight, your experience. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. They're all up there, so find them, connect on LinkedIn. Let's keep the conversation going, and join me in a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.